Uh-huh. Mm, 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 mm.
Hey, welcome back, YouTubians, to another episode of Making the Case. I am your host, Dr. Jacob Isom, and we're here with another episode. Today, we're talking about, do women feel protected? Okay. Now, once again, this is a conversation that has been kind of navigating and circumventing YouTube and a lot of other spaces. So I said, you know what? Why not take a stab at it, make a case on whether or not women feel protected or not. So what we're gonna do is first go over our two channel norms. One, we'll take points in our people, and then two, we're gonna do all the cussing derogatory stuff. My bad, I'm laughing because I always forget, man. I be so ready to get into it, man, because I be excited about the content and the information. So you gotta forgive me, man. But yeah, now I can get into my opening statement. So, but yeah, the conversation has been around for a very long time. Of course, now I'm not making today's episode about race because I'm talking about, do women feel protected in general for men. So this is not a black man versus black woman conversation. And actually, I'm going to barely even skim the surface of that. So this is just in general, broad conversation about men and women, because that's what conversation should always be about, right? Whether it's gender, whether it's politics, we need to stick on that. Okay. Once we bring race in and it mucks things all up, you already know why. But anywho, there's always a time and place and context for racial conversations. But when we make everything about race, you know, it dilutes the conversation, in my humble estimation. All right. So, what you're going to see from today's episode, we're going to touch many different points, because I often talk about, a lot of times when we speak on protection, we're not just talking about physically, we're talking about emotionally, we're talking about spiritually, we're talking about preventative protection. All right. Which a couple of clips are actually going to go into. So we're going to look at protection from multiple different angles. And I know, like I said, we like to focus on the physical aspect, but that's just one dimension. Because men protect women in so many different ways, and that's one thing we want to make sure that we address on this episode right here, right now. Okay. So without further ado, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into my first clip or second clip. All right. Whichever way you want to count it. All right. So let's go ahead and get into my first piece of episode, or my first piece of evidence, excuse me. Second clip. Anywho, let's do it.
So I always date men that I feel protected, that,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And I don't know, like, if I'm expecting some shit to go down, but you know what I mean? But I always date that. I date men that I think are or will make good fathers. Yeah. So I always date men that
protecting a woman properly, she won't even know that she's being protected. Me and Bae went out. We went out to a lounge, downtown Chicago. We walked through the door. They don't pat us down. So of course, my first mind state is, even though we downtown Chicago, somebody could have a gun in here. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could have a weapon. They didn't pat nobody down coming through the door. Cool. So as we move through the venue, it's packed, right? And she kind of gets tired of walking through the crowd, and she stops in the middle and like, hey, let's just kick it. Let's just vibe right here in the middle. I'm like, nah, we're gonna keep going to the back, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, if something do go down in here, I don't want to be in the middle of a crowd while people are trying to get out and trample each other, right? So we're gonna go all the way to the back. We're gonna get up against a wall, so we kind of more in a secure space against a wall versus in the middle of a crowd of people. Also, we right by the door that leads to that back room, which will lead to an exit. You know what I'm saying? And it's next to the DJ booth. So when we get to the back, we you know what I'm saying, we got our little spot on the wall, we kicking it and we vibing out. If some go down in this bitch, we're gonna be the first ones out the door. We cool, right? I'm not telling her none of this.
Yeah.
She just having a ball. She just kicking it, right? Because if I tell her this Now she worried about what could happen, and now she's not having fun.
She gonna create
You know what I'm saying?
scenarios.
So it's women that could be in situations all the time to where they're being protected by a nigga and they have no clue about what's going the fuck on at all, because he just doing what he do and letting her do what she do. Protection could be an undervalued quality because it's some women who the man around them has made their lives so safe that they don't feel danger. If a man is protected,
And there you have it. There goes my first piece of evidence. And really, I guess I'm trying to prove that women really are protected. And, well, it's hit or miss depending on what type of man you with, right? Because that's why I saved that last clip for last, because a lot of men don't understand that they do have to protect in those other ways. It's usually always physically that's pushed to the forefront, and as it should be. But at the end of the day, we got to realize women are emotional creatures, right? So we have to protect their feelings. Sometimes that we're going to have to say things a little bit differently. We're going to have to kind of tone police ourselves and things of that nature if you really truly care about someone. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest person on, always trying to watch my tone, because I do believe men should be men. But at the end of the day, you also got to understand what woman you're dealing with. Okay. And that includes all the women that surround you. So protection, and I really appreciated what the guy in the second clip was saying when it comes to using tact, right? Because a lot of times, and I was just explaining this to a young lady the other day, that a lot of times women don't understand that men are literally scoping out the same, like Denzel and Equalizer, right? Like we tone in the different, we looking for the exits and all type of different things, because like, particularly for those who grew up in environments that wasn't the safest, right? That we're in touch and we're in tune of what's going on, because our safety and our livelihood is at stake. So particularly when we're with our significant other, our mother, our sisters, or anybody that we truly care about, like we're always going to want to make sure that they come home whole in one piece. So it's extremely important to be preventative and to make sure that when we are protecting our women, we're being smart about things, right? We're using foresight and not hindsight. All right. So let's go ahead and get to our second piece of evidence. We got more clips for you to, I guess, prove that, women really are protected. That is the case I'm making. Let me stop tiptoeing around it. I'm making the case that women are protected. All right, let's go.
If a man is correcting you, it's because he's a protector. If I can't correct you, I can't protect you. So if I'm correcting you, it's because I'm trying to protect you. If a man is correcting you,
the more we as men start to see a future with the woman that we're interested in, then the more we feel that we want to protect her. As simple as walking on the outside of the road so she's not closest to the traffic. Or if you're in a very busy environment with a lot of people, he holds onto your hand tight and he's aware that other guys are around you in case maybe they try and be a little bit creepy or something like that. Because, sometimes guys be trying to brush up on a woman as they're just trying to get by. Now, that's not to say that if a guy just does see fun with a girl that he doesn't care at all, but he won't be making an active effort in making sure that you're all okay. He'll just leave that entirely to you.
This is how I look at it. Like, no guy hangs out with other guys that he knows is on that type of time. You know? You're like, yo, you don't want to be associated with that shit. Like, yo, men beat up other men for doing this kind of shit. Like I've seen this live. I've seen dudes get beat up for harassing women, like get beat up by like dudes that they don't know, that those women didn't know, but they're like, yo, men are very quick to protect women.
Right.
Like from what I've seen, obviously
Yeah.
not always the case. You know, this is how I look at it. Like no guy like hangs out with other guys that he knows is on that type of time. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you don't want to be associated.
I think one of the most fulfilling things in love, whether it's romantic love or love for a child, especially a little girl, would be protecting them. I don't want a woman that I can't save from a castle and a dragon, because a man wants to be a hero. He wants to go through that pain and sacrifice for that woman. And if he comes home to a woman that cannot acknowledge that, or that thinks that she can do it as good or better, then what the fuck is he in the house for? Men protecting women in that way is probably one of the most beautiful things there is about love. I think one of the most fulfilling things in love, whether it's
if a man can't correct you, he can't protect you. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's another one of those preventative things that some women may look at it as controlling when it comes to a man saying, I don't think you should wear that, or I don't think we should go here. I don't think we should do this. Maybe we should think about it in this way. A man is not trying to control you. What he's trying to do is he's trying to protect you. All right. Either he's been in that situation before, he's seen somebody in that situation before, he's using his foresight saying, I don't know if this is a good look. He's using his wisdom, his intelligence, right? Because a lot of women want to be with a man that's competent, right? Just as competent, if not more competent than they are. So if you're going to be with somebody, it's best that you trust them, first of all, and trust their leadership. Okay? Because a man who's a leader is going to protect you without you really knowing it. We already discussed that in the last few clips. Okay? So yes, a man is going to correct you. If you do not like it, it's best not to be with that man. It's best to find a man that you can control yourself. But of course, you don't want that. And when women are stuck in a situation where they're saying that, okay, I don't want to control a man. I don't want a man correcting me, telling me what to do. But then again, I don't want to be the leader of a man. What you're finding is these type of women who have this ego, they're just choosing to be single. I think we've already discussed this on this channel. All right. But I think all the clips and this piece of evidence was really on point, because particularly with the guy talking about, well, when we really are into you and liking you, like we start doing little displays of protection, like walking on the outside. I remember one time I went on a date with a woman. I literally grabbed her, and this was the first date, right? I literally grabbed her and moved her to the inside while I walked on the outside. All right. Now, another thing that the clips were bringing out is that was instinctual for me to do, right? See, real men they just have that protector spirit about them, and they're going to protect women. Now, what you may be hearing with women saying that they don't feel protected is that when women are making all these rash and bad decisions, they want men to come to their aid. That's what men are not doing. Smart men, anyway. Okay. Now, a real man is going to protect a woman that is literally in danger from another man. Just like in the one clip, the dude was saying that we don't even hang around dudes like that. If we know that a dude is doing something to a child or a woman, he's going to get dealt with, whether in prison or outside, right? That's how real men operate. Real men don't hang around loser type dudes that don't take care of kids, hit on women and things like that. Real men don't hang around men like that. Okay. Birds of a feather flock together. So men do protect women, and we protect in a lot of subtle ways that I think a lot of women don't pay attention to, because a lot of times they just want to have a good time and they're thinking about themselves. Let's just be real. Okay. So let's move on to our last piece of evidence of why I'm arguing that women are protected, even if they feel like they aren't. All right, let's get it.
Why did the guys not protect her? There's only two types of women that men defend. The first group of women that men are going to defend, and that's the group of women that they're attracted to. When men are encountered with unattractive women, they consider them to be annoying. They're going to be trying to avoid you. Definitely not coming to protect them. A bigger component of being unattractive is emotional unattractiveness. When you do things to deter people, they're going to treat you the same as if you're physically unattractive. When other men see women trying to goad men into violence through words, they start losing the ability to want to protect you. Cussing a guy out or anything like that, they really start hesitating when it comes to being captain. Damn, I can't say that. They really start hesitating when it comes to protect.
And so the question I want to ask to the panel is that, should men be responsible for the protection of all women or just their wives and female kin?
Me in particular, I believe in me taking care of my family and protecting the woman in my family is also, taking care of the community, because I'm not responsible for what goes on in someone else's household.
Do you say something?
I feel like as a man of honor, you should, even though you got some guys that will say, well, we don't know what she was doing. But then it's also the moral obligation of protecting another human being.
And so
one of the things that's happened is that traditional masculinity, the idea that it is a man's job to protect women, this is one of our jobs as human beings, as men, to protect women. The feminist movement doesn't like that. Well, then you can't blame us for not protecting women if you don't want us to protect women. Like, I want to protect women. I think men should protect women. I think one of the reasons God put man on earth is to protect women. Okay, well, then it is incumbent on me to protect women. But if you're telling me that I can't even open a door for a woman because this is somehow an offense to her honor, and that if I say that it's man's job to protect women, that this is somehow reinforcing gender stereotypes, then don't come whining to me when bad stuff happens. Because the answer to bad behavior is good behavior. The answer to vice is virtue. The answer to vice isn't just yelling and hashtagging crap. Because
I will absolutely attack men. Men are more of a threat to me than a fucking bear. Men are more of a threat to me than a wild dog. Men are more of a threat to me than a pack of fucking coyotes.
Well, that was the intention when men built the world, to protect women and children from bears and coyotes. That was the whole point of civilizing the world. So good. We're glad that you don't feel like bears and coyotes are a threat. That was the whole point.
I will absolutely attack men.
All right, so that was my last piece of evidence, and I really wanted to touch on two things that kind of came out of those clips. One is the whole idea that men have a moral obligation to protect women. All right, now, so I have a moral obligation to protect and provide for my children, and I even feel like for the women that's in my family, I do feel like I have a moral obligation. I don't have a moral obligation to protect anybody outside of my household, any strangers. Now, I may have a social responsibility to protect those in my community, but even outside of my community, and once again, we always have to, it's nuanced, because like if there's a situation where a woman is literally fearing for her life and something is happening to her by a man, and depending on the level and what's going on, as a man, you have, I wouldn't say responsibility, but you have a decision to make. Can you live with walking away, or do you feel like the least you can do is call the police? So there's nuance to that. But to say that all men should have a moral obligation to protect all women in any circumstance and potentially lose his life, which has happened, by the way. We've seen it year after year, right? That's a tough pill to swallow, because at the end of the day, as a woman, would you want your son, brother, husband, or father to be doing the same thing? That's one thing that you really got to ask yourself. All right. And the second piece that I thought was so powerful that even escapes my mind most of the time, right, is the fact that, men literally civilize the world to protect women. While you have this woman that was in the clip that was just clearly a feminist, right, going off on how animals are more safe than human beings are. Well, I think if it was an animal and you out there in the woods, I don't think they would really care about your safety. If we was to be real, right? But we have all these things that's put in place, all these mechanisms, all these traps, and all these to literally protect us from animals, wild animals especially, right? To protect us from weather, to protect us for a whole diseases, a whole host of things, right? Men, for the most part, created. Okay. So the whole notion and idea about men not protecting women, and if you're only looking at in a physical aspect, which is one piece that, I mean, we have to be real with ourselves and pretty much understand that when we look at the big picture, men are always protecting women in many different aspects on a daily basis. Okay. Even the different jobs that men do on a daily basis are literally protecting you from danger, from harm. Even if we want to go and look at the military, right? We're always saying that we respect our troops. Thank you for protecting us. Well, that's protection. So, and I know a lot of time this conversation is revolve around protection when it comes to in a relationship, right? But it has morphed into protection of men overall. So, and this is the point that I'm making, is the fact that no, men are always protecting women, right? Men are always thinking about women and children. Always. So I just think that's a false statement. And I really think we, need to start opening up the conversation on a macro scale versus that I'm just talking about how I feel and a man just going to sit up there and watch me open my own door and stuff like that. I mean, it's really silly when you look at it in that regard. All right. So we're going to end today's episode, man. Hopefully I brought you a different perspective on the whole, women not feeling protected conversation. It's a conversation definitely to be had, but I think that we have some strong pieces of evidence, some strong clips to go off of. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode 102, by the way, which I didn't mention in the beginning. I apologize. Okay. But you already know, my link's going to be in the description. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel, man. Let's get them subs up. All right. But as always, I'm you, you're me. Love always, love eternal. Remember, the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. And we're wrapping up another episode. Deuces. One love.